Game hunting can be a real fickle beast. Sometimes you find nothing, sometimes you find 1,000 games, but sometimes your next big score could be in the place you least expect it to be.
Game pickups! Building the games room! Road trips! Live game hunting!
Hello again folks, and welcome back to another live game hunting video, and this time we're going to be hitting up another load of charity shops, hoping to add some awesome bits to the collection, as well as hopefully finding some bits we can either flip into CX for that sweet in-store credit, or even to sell on eBay. But here is the thing about game hunting, you never know what you're going to find, and sometimes the best find of the day can come from the most unexpected source. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, off to our first town, charity shop hunting. We're starting our hunt this time in the small town of Halesworth, just on the Suffolk border. Now I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time I've ever hunted in this town, and honestly, it may well also be the last. There was only 2 charity shops here, and to be honest, it was more because I was just starting at the furthest point I was hoping to travel today and working my way back. Classic charity shop fodder here. We had boxes of CDs and boxes of DVDs. I think these are all 4 for £1 or something like that, but let's hope there's something else inside. So heading in, we have some DVD box sets, and one I've never seen before, but with a majority of these BBC box sets, sadly they're not really worth a great deal. Same thing goes for most of the DVDs here, unfortunately. Other than the oddity now and then, 98% of DVDs I would say are essentially worthless, even though some of them are super cool, such as this Mars Attacks variant, which was very tempting, but I decided to leave it behind, even though this is an absolute classic movie. So comment below if you love that film. Moving on to the second and only other, to my knowledge, charity shop in Halesworth, I thought I saw an expansion to the Exploding Kittens board game, which is really good, but this was just a puzzle, so I did decide to leave this behind. Some board games, and especially their expansions, can fetch a decent price. They're always worth keeping a lookout for, especially in these toy sections. It's normally kind of cheap toys and books, but you never know. So unfortunately, Halesworth was a little bit of a bust, but just up the road is our second location we are hunting in today, Beccles, and just up these stairs we're heading into what the kind of section I normally look at in the charity shop: menswear, DVDs and games. And here we have a very large bookshelf and a decent selection of games here. Now unfortunately, all of the games were around the £3 mark. There's nothing like amazing here that I couldn't miss out on, and to be fair, these prices weren't terrible for some of these games, but normally when I'm looking for games in charity shops, I'm looking for games, if they're kind of common like this one, around the £1 to £2 mark. As we know by now, sadly the price of Call of Duty has absolutely dropped in CX, which is a real shame. But this was cool to see. Yes, it's a common game. Yes, it is £5, but a PlayStation 1 game in 2023. Here's a fun fact. I mainly buy all of my jeans from charity shops just because I like to wear vintage Levi's jeans. And if I can get these at a great deal, I always pick them up. But I think £25 is a little bit overpriced for these, especially when I can normally pick these up on eBay for £10 to £15. So unfortunately, I did pass on these today. But let me know if you'd have picked these jeans up for 25 quid. Moving on to our next charity shop, and these were pretty cool to see, these retro Star Trek books. Now, I am more of a Star Wars fan, and I don't have the greatest knowledge when it comes to Star Trek merchandise, but I did pass on these as I think they were £5 each. If it had been £5 for the bundle, yes, I may have taken a bit of a risk on these ones, but again, let me know in the comments down below if I should have picked these up, even though I was very tempted to pick up this book to find out what that smell. Like Star Trek, a lot of franchises have a lot of merch, and I am seeing more and more Stranger Things stuff in charity shops, but let me know in the comments down below. Do you think the Stranger Things bubble has burst? I think they've just left it too long, and this franchise is not dead yet, but it's not far off. As y'all know by now, I'm a massive wrestling fan, so I had to at least have a peek through this book, the WWF Greatest 100 Matches. Now, I actually thought this was like 100 to 1, so eventually we'd find out what the greatest matches of all time, but it's just a selection of 100 great matches. But let's get the comments started. Comment below what you personally think is the greatest wrestling match of all time. We have decades of matches to go back through, and I really want to see in the comments down below what your favourite wrestling match is of all time. So I nearly missed these while I was distracted by that WWE 100 Greatest Matches. We had a couple of Simpsons annuals here. Now, much like the Simpsons series, me and my wife don't really go for any Simpsons merch past like probably the first 10 years of The Simpsons. So anything basically past the 2000s, we kind of lost interest in because, let's be honest, it was those first 10 seasons or so that were gold. Finally, in this charity shop, we did have a few games hiding here, but unfortunately were these PC kind of sold out games. There are just so many of these games, but let me know in the comments down below if any of these hold any value. I'm kind of going off what I think is a correct presumption that most of these are worthless. This is why you always check the opening times of stores. In the heart of Beccles is Vintage Mischief, which is like a kind of antique shop and also a vintage clothing shop. And unfortunately today it was closed, but fear not, I'll be heading back here in a future episode. You would have thought I'd have hit the mother load here. Look at all these Xbox 360 games. But the problem is there is two problems. Firstly, they're all £4 each. But secondly, and much worse, they are all scratched. That's not going to work. There's no way any of these games work. It looked like these discs have been kicked down a pavement, which is a real shame because a lot of the Xbox 360 games are sadly dropping in value at CEX, but it's still a great time to build your Xbox 360 collection. Perhaps the best time to build your Xbox 360 collection, just because these games are at the lowest price they're probably ever going to be. There are still some games that trade in for decent money, such as Black Ops 2. Not as much as it used to, but you can still get a decent price. But like I said, these games were essentially worthless. They could have been 50p and I'd have still left them behind just because they were just so irreparably damaged. There was no way these games would work, which is probably why there was still 4 copies, yes, 4 copies of GTA 5 on the shelves. A real disappointment, but this is the thing with game hunting. Sometimes you will have fails. On the shelf here we have 2 Star Wars Original Trilogy VHS box sets, but these two things are not the same. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this box set here is one of the original VHS releases. Yes, the original Star Wars trilogy has been edited, recut, had bits added, had bits taken away, had the special effects changed multiple times, but to the best of my knowledge, isn't this one of the best ways to watch the original cut of the greatest trilogy of all time? Let me know down below. Let me know in the comments down below if this is the same for you. I see these kind of sold out PC CD-ROM games or other kind of generic PC CD-ROM best of games all of the time in charity shops, and they're always super cheap. But is this a good way to go back and play some of these games if you're a retro PC gamer, or is it just better to buy these games on Steam or Good Old Games? Let me know. I'm slowly getting back into retro PC gaming. I want to know the best way of doing it and if it's actually worth picking up these games. Yes, I will always pick up big box PC games, but most of these I'll pass up on. But let me know if you think I should be picking these up, because there were some absolutely fantastic titles here. Love the Tomb Raider games on the PC, and I just want to make sure I shouldn't grab these. So unfortunately today's game hunt so far had been a bit of a bust until I found 1000 games. I would say this is literally the definition of shovelware. Yes, it says no shareware, but this is the definition of shovelware. Just 1000 games and probably about 2 anyone wants to play. Now in the next charity shop was somewhat of an unexpected find, this vintage Toy Story 2 figure. Now, this isn't really a toy line I'd collect for, and I did check to make sure this didn't hold some massive kind of value, but unfortunately when it comes to retro toys, it's all about condition. The cardboard on this one was pretty bent, the plastic was yellowed, so unfortunately I did pass. Now when I'm out on the hunt, I always keep an eye out for items that my wife might like, and she does collect these vintage Walt Disney books, just a kind of classic artwork from like the 80s and even the 70s, and some of these books were proper vintage. I think they were like in the mid 70s, and these were all like 50p or £1 each. I have no idea the value of these, but it's just more the memories and the nostalgia that these hold. And this really was the golden age of Disney. Like, say what you want about Disney these days, but these are just timeless stories, and the artwork is absolutely fantastic. And for the price, it's just worth it for that trip down memory lane. These were all, I think we picked up all of these books for like £13, which honestly, if you bought this on eBay, would be a lot more. Now whenever I go to charity shops, I do always check the clothing sections for kind of cool vintage gaming shirts. I did pass on this one, as I think it were £5 each, and I don't know, let me know in the comments down below if you would have picked these t-shirts up for £5. I did decide to pass, but maybe. So unfortunately, so far today's game hunt had been a bit of a bust, but salvation can sometimes be found in the most unlikeliest of places, and even better, at the moment, B&M have 10% off toys. And whilst I love going to B&M to pick up some of the amazing Paladone lights and general kind of game room accessories that they have, there is something very specific which I'm looking for in B&M at the moment. Yes, while I was here, I did pick up a very, very nice Xbox lava lamp for just £10, which also works off batteries, which means I don't have to find somewhere to plug it in. I did pass on this absolutely giant Xbox flow lamp, which was very tempting because seriously, what games room cannot be improved by more lighting? But this was what I was looking for, and this is what I was hoping to find. Heading into the toy section, which remember has 10% off, there are loads of these Tmnt Super 7 figures. I love these figures so much. If you go on eBay or even Amazon, these are about £15 or £20 each. And in B&M at the moment, these are just £7.99. I just love the way these look. They just look like the original kind of Tmnt figures that I had when I was growing up in the 80s. And I am going for a full set of these. And it just seems every B&M store I go into has a few more. But this wasn't the only awesome stuff they had in here. They had some really cool stuff. Like, I do like these glow-in-the-dark kind of fluorescent Funko figures. I really like the Witcher figures. These really big Marvel statues are cool. You can get some really cool kind of collectibles in B&M, like these Witcher figures, these Warhammer figures, some really cool stuff. But one thing that stood out for me, and I do not say this very often, was these Funko Pop vinyls. I love TMNT, and these pops are super, super cool. Like, I don't think I haven't bought a pop in absolute years, but this set spoke to me. And there's only 5, the 4 Turtles and Master Splinter. I'm just hoping I can just pick up the entire set here. You can see I'm frantically looking for the full set. And remember, at the moment, these are 10% off, and I just think it's a really cool set. Obviously, I'm looking for the best conditioned ones here. Unfortunately, I could not find Raphael, who is cool but rude, but 4 out of 5 ain't bad. Our final stop this time is just up the road from Beccles in Bungay, and a few charity shops left to hunt in this time. Heading around so far, there's not really much to see, but of course, it's always worth checking the DVD shelves. That's because even at first, when you do not think you see any games, they could be hiding. Yes, you can see there's a copy of Brain Training hiding on the top shelf here, but behind the DVDs, we do have some PlayStation 3 games. Now, unfortunately, they are fairly much the definition of shovelware. We have iPet, Little Big Planet 1 and 2, even though they were the Platinum releases. And yes, of course, some classic DS shovelware. Sadly, nothing to see here, but on first look, it didn't appear there were any games, so at least there was some games hiding here, even though it was sadly nothing to write home about, which is surprising for Gran Turismo. But this is the thing, if you don't look, you don't know. Now, whenever I go through these shelves of DVDs, I do always look out for manga. That's because some of these, especially some of the more obscure ones, can be worth quite a lot of money. And to be honest, I quite like picking these up for my own personal collection. I'd never seen this one before, but I did check, and unfortunately it didn't hold very much value. But trust me, some of these mangas are worth picking up. Now, this one is a bit of a long shot, but whenever I see a biography in a charity shop, I do always check to see if it's signed, even though sometimes it is more obvious than others, such as this book here, which is blatantly signed by Lulu. Some of these can fetch a really high price, and for the couple of seconds it takes, it's always worth checking. One last charity shop here in Bungay, and one last game. This very sad, very tired looking copy of Tiger Woods for the Xbox 360, which sadly will probably remain here until the end of days. That was another day of hunting. It does seem like a bit of a fail, but for me, hunting is half the fun, and we were saved by the most unlikely of sources, B&M. Here we are then, back in the games room, and this is what I love about hunting. Even though the charity shops were somewhat of a bust this time, we did still manage to pick up some awesome bits from the collection from the most unlikely of places, B&M. And first off, we have this Xbox Icons flow lamp. And for me, games rooms are all about lighting, and B&M has some really good, really cheap and effective lighting solutions for anyone's games room. No, this video isn't sponsored, I just really like their game lights, especially when this Xbox light was just £10, and this is a really, really effective way to light your game room. Recently, when I've been visiting B&M, I've been finding more and more cool collectibles and action figures. But here is the thing with B&M stores. Every single store seems to have totally different stock. And one series of action figures which I have been absolutely loving recently is the Tmnt Super 7. I just love the retro look of these figures, and normally online these are a lot more expensive. They're only £7.99 in B&M, but this is the thing, you never know what you're going to find, and each store just seems to have a random selection of figures. Now, even better at the moment, as part of a Black Friday deal, B&M is offering 10% off all toys. So these were even cheaper, and I managed to pick up 4 more figures I needed for my collection. So first off, we have Sewer Samurai Leo. And the thing I love about these figures is they just have like the retro look of the TMNT figures that I grew up collecting in the 80s. And some of these are so cool, like here we have Chrome Dome. This is the thing, I'm going to slowly keep hitting up B&M stores and hopefully find every single one of these figures. I think there's about 30 different figures, but for me, it's just part of the fun is finding them and just seeing which ones I find on any given day when I go into B&M. So that brings us on to our last pickup this time, and I cannot tell you the last time that I bought a Funko Pop vinyl, but these TMNT Art Series Funkos really spoke to me. These were £8.99 each, and I managed to get 4 of these in the series. They are in pop protectors, and I just love the artwork on these. I think they are super cool, and this is the thing with pops. They have to be super, super cool for me to make an exception and add them into my collection. But these ones just spoke to me. I don't know what it is. It's the artwork and just kind of the fact they are just TMNT ones. I just think at the end of the day, I'm an absolute sucker for anything TMNT. There we have it then, folks. That was another live game hunting episode, and it just goes to prove you never know where you're going to find something cool. But let me know in the comments down below, what is the coolest thing that you recently have found in your local B&M store. Remember, this video is not sponsored. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you all soon.